Hello, my dear children. I hope you are doing good. So, today we'll be looking into a very fantastic, very inspirational poem. Hope is the thing with feathers. This is one of the finest poems of Emily Dickinson. So, let's begin with knowing about the poet. Emily Dickinson, in full Emily Elizabeth Dickinson, was born in year 1830. She was an American lyric poet who lived in seclusion. Seclusion means state of being private and away from other people. Dickinson is widely considered to be one of the two leading 19th century American poets. Only 10 of Emily Dickinson's nearly 1800 poems are known to have been published in her lifetime. Devoted to her private pursuits, she sent hundreds of poems to friends and correspondents while apparently keeping the greater number to herself. Her sister collected and helped publish all of her poems after Emily's death in 1886. Emily Dickinson did not give titles to her poems, so the first line is always given as the title. She gave her poem numbers, and this poem is number 314. She freely ignored the usual rules of versification and even of grammar in her poems. And in the intellectual content of her work, she likewise proved exceptionally bold and original. Dickinson's poems are unique for the era in which she wrote. They have short lines, usually did not have titles. All her poems were given numbers and used irregular capitalization and punctuation. Many of her poems deal with the themes of death and immortality. Some of her notable works are Because I Could Not Stop for Death, I'm Nobody, Who Are You? I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died, Wild Nights, Wild Nights. Success is counted sweetest, etc. So let me introduce you to the poem. So, my dear children, everything that is done in this world is done by hope. So, what is hope? Hope is to cherish a desire accompanied by expectation of fulfillment. Hope is seeing light in spite of being surrounded by darkness. Children, this poem is a kind of hymn of praise written to honor the human capacity for hope. In this poem, hope is metaphorically transformed into strong-willed bird that lives within the human soul. Essentially, the poem seeks to remind readers of the power of hope. While we may all experience some dark times, hope can offer us some encouragement. Hope is the major theme that runs throughout the poem. Hope is the Thing with Feathers is a masterpiece of spiritual expression about hope and its impact on mind. Hope resides in the heart for good. It liberates us from despair and gives us the strength to move on. So, let's go through the summary of the poem to understand the poem better. Emily Dickinson in the poem presents hope as an ever singing and selfless bird within the soul of a person. According to her, hope is a golden quality in a human being that shines even during adversity. This free and courageous bird sings its wordless tune no matter what the situation is. The speaker explains that only hope can help us to remain positive during extreme situations. Hope serves us as a beacon of light during the storms in our life. Towards the end, Dickinson represents her own miserable plight and expresses that hope helped her survive the tests and trials of her life, asking for nothing in return. So now let's go through the poem and see what does it say.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asks a crumb of me.
So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Now let's go through the explanation of the poem. So the first stanza says, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. So, my dear children, if I tell you to imagine something with feathers, that is, something having feathers, definitely, apart from the fictional things like fairies and angels, a picture of bird will flash in your mind, right? So, here, poet, instead of comparing hope directly to a bird, she made a very beautiful comparison by writing thing with feathers. Here, poet wants us to think hope as the thing with feathers, which means the bird. Why the is used with things with feather? It is because the poet wants us to know that the indicates that this bird, that is hope, is uniquely identifiable because it is the one that does not settle or rest on the rooftops or on the branches of trees. It settles in the soul of the people. So what this poet says in the first two lines is that hope is like a strong-willed bird that sits in the soul of people. In the third line, poet says that this hope, just like a bird, sings the tune with no words, no lyrics. It is obvious, my dear children, that we have never seen a bird singing with lyrics and all. We just listen to the tunes which makes us happy and gives us positive vibes. It fills us with positivity. So just like these songbirds, hope sitting in our soul is an ever singing bird which sings a tune with no lyrics, no words, nothing, and encourages us, gives us sense of possibility, fills us with positivity. Its song is everlasting. It does not stop singing under any circumstances and comforts the human spirits. In other words, hope does not communicate by speaking to us in a conventional sense. It is feeling that we get that cheers us even in the dark times of despair. So I hope you are clear with the first stanza. Let's move on to the next one. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. So, hope is ever singing, as we know from the first stanza. But it sounds the sweetest when the going gets rough, when a heavy storm comes in our lives, when life is hard and things are thrown at us. There is hope inside us, singing through the chaos, which empower us, which encourages us. When things are at their roughest, that's when hope is at most melodious and most beautiful. It would take a distressingly intense storm. When storm is very harsh, very furious, that means things have to be really, really, really very tough, very severe to abash our hope bird, to lessen, to dim the power of that tune, to upset the unshaken power of the hope bird, which made many people, which helped so many people to recover from darkest times. So, to make the hope bird disturbed, to lessen the power of hope, which helped so many people to be alive, which kept them warm, things had to be very, very, very tough. The storm has to be very terrible and fierce to shake the power of hope. Now let's move on to the last stanza. I have heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, Yet, never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. So, here in the last stanza, poet is telling her own experience that she heard this little courageous bird inside her, even in the most dire of circumstances. It continues to sing beautifully in extreme cold or in weirdest sea. Poet wants to tell us that Hope Bird's song can still be heard even in the worst of environment, when it seems that world has gone cold and everything seems strange. Even then, when life is down and things seem totally awful, there is extreme version of difficulties in life. This little hope bird keeps singing in us without asking for anything in return. Therefore, hope is a joyous gift with no conditions or strings attached to it. It dwells in the soul and serves humanity selflessly, if only they wish to recognize it. So, my dear wonderful ladies, when the world says give up, when you feel like giving up, try to listen to your inner self. There is a little bird hopes singing in you, singing in your spirit, is whispering to you and saying, it's okay, you'll be fine. Try it one more time. My dear children, the birds of hope are everywhere. All you need is to listen them sing. I hope you are clear with this poem. Thank you.